Hey, how's it going? Welcome to episode number 2. This is where we're going to actually wire the control panel. What I got in the mail was the Electric Ice 2 push buttons from GroovyGameGear.com. A couple of things about these push buttons. They are full RGB control, and they come with a little switch holder that's a little bit different than a normal push button. This is designed so you can use any sort of push button you'd like, or a leaf switch. So these come apart real easy. It's just a little twist, and then the whole holder and push button comes off, and then you're left with the button. As you can see on the bottom of my panel, which is set up on my work stand here, all of the push buttons are installed with the little push button nut, but none of the switches are installed. What I'm going to do now is go through and twist on all of the push button holders and make sure that everything is pointed in the proper direction or proper orientation, so I have clearance between all of them, because this is a lot of buttons on a panel. This is the first part. This is the first stage of what I do to start laying out my buttons for the panel. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on here. I'm going to have a controller, iPAQ 4 controller, and then there's also going to be 3 LED Wiz controllers as well from GroovyGameGear.com. So there's a lot of wiring, a lot of stuff going on underneath. So it's going to take me a little while to get this done. I'm not going to show you guys the boring parts of this, but in order to put these on, you would just put them on just like you took them off and give them a little twist and they go on. So I've got to do that for all my buttons, get everything lined up the way I want it, and then start figuring out which route I want my wires to go. And we're going to go ahead and skip to part 2. So I've just come across my first problem. The universal design of the Groovy Game Gear switch holder on the bottom of their Electric Ice 2 switches is a little bit too long. This is it's about maybe 2 inches wide. And when you've got this many packed in this small of an area, I just can't seem to get it to work with all of the tails facing in a direction I would like, where all of the pins are in an orientation that I can get to. So the solution is to cut off the tails. I won't be using these as leaf switches. I probably won't ever have any other switch in there but these. I doubt that I'm going to take the time to take all these switches out and change them for something else. These are decent switches. I don't have any problems with them. I don't think I ever will have any problems with them. So I'm going to take the Dremel tool with the safety glasses. Always use safety glasses when using your Dremel tool, or any tool for that matter. And I'm going to cut just a little bit off, just the tail part where the leaf switch would sit. So this is what it looks like before. This is what it's going to look like afterwards. So just a little bit of a difference. I'm just going to get rid of that tail. So I've got 22 buttons to do like that. So this is going to take me a little while that I hadn't planned on. I think the Dremel tool is probably the best tool for this. I didn't play around with wire cutters or anything, but I'm afraid that if I get wire cutters or any sort of cutter in there that's not as precise as the Dremel, I'll end up hacking away that little button that holds the switch. And I only have one extra switch. I only bought one extra switch. So we'll see how it goes. I've changed the camera angle a little bit so you can get a closer up view of what I'm doing. I'm going to take this natural line that goes from the bottom all the way to the top here, and I'm just going to take the Dremel tool and slice off this extra piece here. And that's it. Take the micro switch, pop it in, and then you're good to go. Just clips on the switch as normal. That's it. Okay, now that I've got all of the push buttons installed, all of my holders cut down, all of my switches installed, I'm ready to start my wiring. Also, my iPAQ 4 is screwed into the board. And I've oriented this in a way where it's going to be convenient to route everything in. I've got players 1 and 3 here, which are going to go into the top, and players 2 and 4, which are going to come around into the bottom. So it's important when you're laying all of this out that you kind of keep in mind where your wires have to go. When I wire in my RGB controllers, I only need 3 of them. And I'm going to put one here, one up here in the center, and then one on this side. So I've got everything kind of laid out how I want to lay it out. I've got an idea of where all my wires need to go. When you go to do your wiring, I use female quick disconnects or female spade connectors. They fit really easy on the terminals of the micro switches for the push buttons and for the joysticks. And they're really easy to crimp down. Get a good set of crimpers. This is a lot of crimps. This is probably 100 crimps or so. So get a good set of crimpers that you're going to be able to use. For wiring this time, I'm going to go with a 22 gauge wire. Last time I went with a 16 and it was a little bit too big. So the higher in number you go engage, the smaller the wire goes, and it's a little bit more pliable and flexible. I like to use the stranded because it's a little bit more, it is a little bit more flexible, and I don't feel like it's going to break like a solid core. So I got 22 gauge stranded from Radio Shack. I got a 3-pack, which is red, green, and black. I'm just going to use the red and the black. The red is going to be for positive, the black is going to be for ground. I also got an extra 90-foot spool because I don't think the 22 or 25 feet on this roll is going to be near enough. I haven't opened this yet though, because I may take it back if I don't need it. But I'm going to run all the blacks to black, all the grounds to black, and then all of the actives or positives to red. So, having said that, I'm going to start wiring. First thing I'm going to do is start wiring up my actives. So, when you're wiring your actives, you want to wire your spade connector to the normally open slot spade on the switch, which in the Zippies and the Cherries that I have, it's always this top spade. The very, very top one that comes out of the top is the common. So everything else I'm going to wire to the normally open here, which that means that the switch connection is open, and when you press the button, then it closes. So all of the actives are going to wire into their respective terminals here. So on the third terminal from the left here, it says 1 SW8, which stands for switch 8, which I don't use. So I have switch 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then down, up, left, right, start, and point. Remember, when you're wiring your joysticks, you want to physically move your joystick down or up or left or right and see which micro switch it activates. It's very confusing because it first it activates the opposite switch because it's a lever, and then when you're working from the back of the panel like this, it's flipped again. So when I pull it down, it's actually hitting the down micro switch here. When I pull it left, it's actually hitting, when I pull it left, it's actually hitting the right micro switch. So make sure you actually activate it so you can get everything correct. I'm going to wire this up, and I'll see you for part 3 or 4. I'm going to do an up close on this so you can get an idea of what I'm doing. The first thing I do is I attach some wire guides. These are just plastic wire guides that I got at Home Depot. And then I'm going to strip a little bit of the 22 gauge. It's still attached to the coil at this point. I feed it backwards through my wire guides and towards my button, at which point I crimp on my spade connector. Make sure it's nice and tight. Then I plug it in to the corresponding button. Then I'm going to pull all the slack out of the wire, make sure the wires run how I want it to run. Measure it out. Cut it. Strip this end off. Plug it into the proper switch hole. Then tighten it down. So that's all there is to it. I'll do one more. Feed the wire back through the opposite direction. Gonna strip off a little bit of wire. Take a spade connector. Crimp it in. Attach it to the joystick, to the push button anyway. And then measure it out. And it's that simple. Okay, this is going to be the last part of the second video. What I've done so far is I've wired all of my positive leads from players 1 and 3 into my iPack. I've used a ton of these wire guides or wire holders that I got from Home Depot. It makes the panel look so much neater. So when you start wiring, you kind of have a basic idea of how you want the wires to snake through your panel and how they're going to come out. And then you just add these as necessary. You don't have to put them all in at the beginning. I didn't by any means have all these in the beginning. I just kind of put them in where I saw they fit in. There are still a couple of spots that I need to run from the other side that are going to connect to this top spot, but I'm actually going to have them come under the board, out and over. And I think that'll make it look a lot cleaner. So for now, all of the positives are done on this side using the same methods that I went over in the previous clip. For players 2 and 4, I'm going to tackle those another day. I've already been working on this for about 3 or 4 hours at this point, just to get it to this point as well. So this is a very time-intensive thing. So make sure you budget enough time to do this. This is going to take me a couple of days to get all of the wiring and everything done. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below, and I'll see you guys next time.